Okay, hello, welcome. I have a new mic. It should sound pretty nice now. But back to where we are currently. So I'm getting ready to release it soon. The engine. I'm kind of just losing motivation to work on it. Maybe I'll get some back when I see some feedback and some engagement with the engine. But yeah, it's just fixing up some things. I wrote down a little roadmap of what actually can happen, some actual ideas, and then like an internal to-do list. It's behavior tree, but it's pretty straightforward, nothing crazy. Then just finishing the pathfinding. Currently, it's what I'm doing. So yeah, the pathfinding. This one is the static pathfinding. Maybe I just document as I tell here. So the pathfinding. So obviously for pathfinding you need some solid, like what's solid and what's not. It's very important to know so you can navigate the open space. So there are two classes of solid objects. Static, dynamic. Then static are like static objects, like subtile objects for one, right? And all of these are defined in core. Are defined in core/static collision, right? And then, I mean, collision groups also I need to do still. But this is rather nice. Then, I mean, the collision groups is just implement them and that's it. Yeah, so just with a bit set pack bit data, I mean, it's correct. So there are two classes of solid objects, and then subtile objects, and then you also have the tile set, the groups and wall bounds, right? And then you have like dynamic ones. Yeah, and then entities basically. So either yeah, and this is what I'm doing right now, right? So you obviously have like static things that don't change very often. That's why they're called static, which is like tile objects and tile sets. And then, but you also have like dynamic things. For example, if you think about having a moving puzzle and you have to move around a statue, right? But then, I mean, it's a moving object, but obviously the monsters, the enemies should run around it. So you need some kind of dynamic component in the pathfinding grid that's being updated as well, right? Okay, so then we need a way to identify what is a dynamic object and what's not. This is kind of so in the first iteration of the pathfinding system, I just made every object, like every entity, solid per default, which is a bit annoying because actually it doesn't work, right? Because if you are an entity and you are solid and you search a path, right? The starting point is already solid. I don't know, it's just weird. So and I didn't really think about it at that time, and then I just kind of ended up removing it some kind of like internally, but on the public API it was still kind of there and was in a bit of a limbo, right? And right now I just had the very great but also simple idea that, I mean, obviously you need a system to allow the user to define exactly what entities are solid and what which entities are not, right? And then A cool system is either defined by entity ID or by type, right? Yeah, and it's pretty cool, right? I like this. So then the public interface looks something like this, right? Like sets reversible. Maybe the naming is not perfect yet, but yeah, you set an entity type. Right, the only thing I can't do is get the current status, right? This is always annoying because you at least need two methods, then, like one get, one set. But yeah, I mean, but that's not really important. Like, the idea is that you set a whole type non-traversable, sorry, set to false, which then means all the space, or specifically all the grid tiles on the pathfinding grid that are being intersected by the shape of any entity of that type is being marked as non-traversable. Yeah, and the same for the entity below. And this is not mutually exclusive. So like, yeah, so it's I mean, I think it's obvious if you look at it, right? You can declare single entities, but also the whole type, but either one, right? If you can also just declare a few. You could declare the whole type, but right, okay, that's actually a problem. So I should use, because I wanted to use like the or operator, and so if you declare the whole, so if you declare, yeah, if you set an entity, a specific entity to false, but the whole type to true, it will still evaluate to true. So yeah, that's something I guess I have to clarify. And yeah, I mean, the condition here is obviously that this entity type needs collision C, otherwise it just crashes, right? Because it makes no sense. I mean, first of all, I just need it internally to like get the collision, but on a logical level, or like a syntactic, a semantic level, it makes no sense, because I mean, to be able to determine the intersection, I just said earlier, you obviously need information about the shape and the dimensions of the entity. Yeah. This is kind of where I'm at currently. So, yeah, and then at the beginning, why this kind of all was a bit annoying to do was, so originally I just had like these methods, update static path grid, which is always called if you change anything in the static collision header, right? I showed earlier. Not that one. So just static collision. If you change anything in here, right, like add a tile object or something, the whole grid is being rebuilt. Because the idea behind it, I mean, it's obviously simple for me to implement, but also it's not really possible to like update the field with fine granularity, right? Because either I clear the whole grid and rebuild it, or there's no real other operation. I can't just reset one entity, right? Because I would have to remember which tiles are being intersected by one like object, and then remove those, and then add it again. And this is not possible, mainly because I don't know. So if I remove I mean, if you don't want to think about it, don't. But so if I have an object, or like the only information I have is that my grid cells, right? Think about a 5 by 5 grid, and let's say the middle 3 by 3, right? It's uneven, so it has a middle, and the middle 3 by 3 grid is solid, right? And if I then say, okay, my object only intersects the middle 3 by 3, and then I remove it, I don't know if any other object that didn't intersect it as well, right? So what I would then have to do is I would have to iterate all the objects, look if none of those intersect, and what if they're only partial intersect, and this gets really complicated and really annoying, and we don't want to deal with it, and we don't have to, because the premise here is, no, but for the static objects is that they don't change often, right? So this is the premise, and then we just go with it, right? We just completely reclear it, and in the end, it's really fast. Nobody cares. Yeah. So, but then for the dynamic entities, this is something that you obviously have to update each tick, and this can be costly. So if you just look at what I have, this is a very early version. But obviously kind of here you have to iterate through all the collidable entities and update them, right? Every tick for every collidable entity. I mean here, so this is obviously the version I said earlier, which doesn't check. It just takes every collision entity and updates it without the new checks, which is what we're implementing right now. So yeah, so now to determine if, so now I have to determine if this entity is solid, right? So, but to finish up on the explanation I started. So here, so yeah, this is the early iteration where we're not checking anything, and I put it in here, just in the PathFinding data, which is just some kind of local, a global shared, global, not local, global shared data for the pathfinding, right? Because this data is used by both static and dynamic pathfind. Sorry, but yeah, it's being used in different like translation units. So you just need a way to exchange the data, and then obviously the core engine also needs to access it. So you need to put it in its own header. Yeah, and I was just kind of calling it from here, and if you think about it, it iterates all entities, it fetches the components, and then it operates on the components, and this sounds very familiar. And we already do this once in the main loop, right? To just to offer all the functionalities of the engine that it has, like which maps are loaded, and then which entities are in update range of any actor and which are not, right? I have this core logic system which already iterates all the entity once, right? This is something you have to do. It's not possible without. You have to iterate all the entities at least once per tick. And I guess it makes sense to put the dynamic updates in here as well, because when here we already iterate them, we already fetch the position, and then we actually check. So we actually have the security check as well on top built in already, that the collision component exists. And then we handle the collision entity, which before we're going to implement what we're doing today, it just meant that it's being added to the grid, right, to the hash grid for this map. But now it will also mean that it's updated in the pathfinding grid, in the dynamic pathfinding grid. Yeah, and something else that complicated it, which kind of kept me just from doing it, was if you're very if you're thinking about performance, right, or like data-driven design, what you would do is, or like yeah, okay. I mean, it is a sub case, what I'm thinking about, because technically I am probably going to give, but actually I just could not give the option to the user, but I want to give the option to the user to just disable dynamic entities for the pathfinding in case you don't want it, because I guess it costs a bit more performance than, for example, the static ones. I would have to kind of have a switch here, right? Or like a Boolean variable. And if this is false, then we just don't do it at all. But yeah, actually, I guess I actually don't need it. But the problem with that would be that you can obviously kind of do it in here, right? So if kind of it's not dynamic, and then you just kind of like continue in this case, right? But then this would be, if you have 50,000 entities, this would be called 50,000 times, right? And what you could actually do is just make the if else outside here, right? So then it's only validated once, but then you have to duplicate this whole code here, and then I don't know. I kept thinking about it, and was kind of indecisive, right? But yeah, I mean it's very minimal, but it's still annoying. But I guess it's not that big anyway, and I guess I also assume that the user uses the feature, which then the check becomes trivial anyway. Because then we need to check if the entity is considered solid for pathfinding anyway. But I'm still not decided on the name here, right? Because path solid or non-traversable, it's so I don't know what to pick yet. But I guess path solid is like a name that can stick, right? And like kind of has a nice ring to it. Okay, so why does this actually not work? Okay. Okay, so I guess let's actually implement this, and this can be made. This is actually const, can be made no discard. And then here, yeah, I thought about it, which data structures to use here, but it's just gonna be an hash set, because the problem is there's too many options, right? And a hash set always takes care of eliminating the dimension, right? Because this is like an int 32. I guess actually uint 32 has like 4 billion options, right? And I can't just make like an array with like size 4 billion and directly index it. So I have to use the hash set. The same for the entity type. Initially I thought it's just a uint 8, but it's actually uint 16, so it's just too big. So we have to use the hash set. Okay, so then obviously the check becomes pretty straightforward. So we just return enable dynamic, which is the fastest check, right? You always want to do the Boolean checks from fastest to slowest, because the shell socket. So as soon as the result of the operation is clear, it stops evaluating, right? And we're only using ands, and the ands is false as soon as it evaluates false once. So we enable dynamic, and then we check just, yeah, I guess solid types would be faster because it's the narrower integer type. And then we can use contains here actually, which is nice. Which is the type. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I guess I can pass the type directly. Probably does make a difference. Okay. Okay, but this is actually not true, right? I mean, what I said still holds, but I do want to make this an or. But yeah, we now have to think about how this actually works. So as soon as I register a type, all from that type are automatically in, and it overrides the option that I give. But actually, it's just why is it not here? Because here actually this, I guess it's actually a trick question, right? Because I don't actually give I guess here it's a trick question, because here I guess maybe it isn't. Because yeah, that's the problem, right? If you make kind of these set methods. I guess you have to give the user the opportunity to do both, right? Like enable it, but also disable it again, which is pretty annoying for me. Yeah. I mean, for the types, it's fine. Right, but I mean, it's just solved by reordering things here, right? So I can just if first of all enable dynamic needs to be true, but then first of all it's if it's can I okay, yeah, so I guess I figured it out. Now the problem is you always have to then evaluate both, right? So this is just something I didn't want to do, which is I guess why I didn't think about it, because what I wanted to do is just guarantee that every or I guess that you don't have to evaluate all three, right? But I guess what you can do is you can obviously say something like this. I guess you have to do like this. So either it gets contained in yeah, it is contained and okay, so it is contained in the types. And if it's contained in the types, it also has been to be contained in the entities. Or I mean, I guess it's actually it already, no? But then if it's not, right? Okay. Okay. I mean, this makes no sense. Yeah. But it, what? Like this? Like it's not allowed not to be in there. So something like this. So contained in the types, but not contained in the things. I mean, I have to change this. But I mean, it's the interface is kind of weird anyway, so. Yeah, I mean, the most logical type is a lot more just to make it an OR operator, right? That's everything else is just weird. But I don't know, it's still interesting if you know how to like respect the thing. Because I mean, so if yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, the problem is that yeah, the problem is that that's a problem. Oh, I can't find it because you can't mark an entity as not traversable. You can only mark it as or you can only mark it as it can only be not traversable, not non-traversable. That's how it is, right? So yeah. So I can't actually just kind of do this. Because if I would have information about if it's not traversable, I could say it's not allowed to be in the not traversable entities set, right? But I only have information about if it's traversable. But anyway, I mean, it's like this, it's fine. It's also clearly documented. So if this has precedence, right? If it's that type, which also is also why it's evaluated first, right? Because it's more often true than the single entities ones. Yeah, but still the interface needs some rework, because this is I also need to return a value, but I don't want to make more methods, right? Also, I guess, yeah, use the new set type. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, guess I have to do it like this then. Yeah, I mean, am I special? Yeah. So set entity pair solid, and I get okay. Sure. I renamed the method, now it's not being recognized. Okay, they never were implemented in the first place, I guess. So I have like one too many, which is it? I guess this. Okay, so this is going to be global path data dot some solid entities, which is actually solid types. If value equal true, else erase it. Yeah, we don't have to use ancient syntax anymore. Thanks to a new hash set sponsored by Uncle. Check it out in a GitHub README. It's a very nice hash map. Get the consts. It writes itself. Oh no, the code is writing itself. Help. Okay. So I guess this is implemented. And I guess I guess this looks clean, right? This is always the shortest version to do this kind of things, right? Either you make a separate set version and a set and an unset and then a get, but then it's 3 methods, right? You could also think about just making a single method, like a single set method, which returns the current value it was before the set. But that also doesn't make sense because then you have to set the value so the value changes, and we don't know which was the original value. Yeah, so it's fine, I guess. Okay, so I have this, and then I can implement that as path solid, which we already did, and now it's the this is already working. I can have it here. So now I have the bool, and now I can do stuff with the bool in here. So I guess it's actually some form of rasterization that is occurring here. Yeah, because I obviously, not obviously, but I have my shape. And the shape can be any supported shape, which is either rect, circle, capsule, or triangle. And it needs to be checked for intersections against squares, actually. Yeah. So, well, I guess I actually don't know what rasterizing means, but I understood it that something is being compared against a square. Yeah, I mean, I guess squares, right? It's like a square grid, and then it is looked. You look at which squares are being hit when you put the shape against the square grid, right? And yeah, I mean, if you just looked at the code, if you just glanced at it, it looks very similar because actually, yeah, that's the same thing here. So first you, when you insert it into the hash grid, you have to do the same thing. You insert it by getting the bounding box, and which actually happens for all the shapes here. So we have the rectangle and the rotation is 0. Then we can just insert it. And given that actually there's still something happening inside this insert method, right? Because rasterization still needs to occur. But yeah, and then, but this is actually a simple case because it's already a non-rotated rectangle. And then if you have a rotated rectangle, we actually store the non-rotated values, like the dimensions, which is here. Then we rotate the points, and then there's a method which just returns the bounding box of the rotated rectangle, which is just kind of a bit min-maxing, right? So if you think about it, if, for example, you have what's it called actually? Let me look it up. Whoops. So if we have a rhombus, damn, I never had that once in my life. So if you have a rhombus, right? If you think about that, that's a funny word actually. I like that. But yeah, so yeah, so it's just kind of rotated in space, right? And then like it's kind of a square, rotated to the right, maybe. This is explanation. And then if you want to get the bounding box, which is kind of like a square, around it, it just kind of, so you know that the starting position X is kind of the leftmost point of the rhombus, right? So you kind of know the vertical X coordinate. And you know the uppermost point of the rhombus is like the Y coordinate for the upper line of the bounding box, right? And so on. So then you get the coordinates of the bounding box. So fast operation is what I'm saying basically. It's nothing complex. And then for the circle, it's actually pretty funny, right? You can just interpret the circle as a rect if you, because I'm storing all the shapes by the top left coordinates. So, which is I guess a bit weird for the circle, because technically, I mean, most of the time you store the circle by its center position. But if you start by its top, you actually just have to add the double of the radius, which then creates a square. Same for the capsule, but in this case, right, I just visualize it. If I'm searching images for capsule, or what's that? I'm getting like the medication stuff. Right, but in the Unity manual, yeah. So yeah, this is basically so vertical capsule, to be specific, is the only capsule type supported by magique, not the horizontal one. And yeah, so obviously, if you take the way, so I'm saving the capsule by its top left X and Y, and then height and radius, right? So to get the bounding box, which is the outer red line here, orange, you need to do have a width of double the radius and a height of height. That's it. And then for the triangle, it's actually the same methods as for the rectangle, because just rotating points. Technically, I guess you do some speeds. Actually, if you use SIMD, you don't, because it's just 8 values, 8 float values, right? Like 4 coordinates each for X and Y. And so this is one operation each, like 4 floats. So yeah, rotating 3 or 4 points is then the same. But yeah, you just call exactly the same function as above, but you just duplicating one edge. Yeah. Okay, so we now know that the same thing has happened, so you obviously want to take advantage of a couple of things. First, all the iteration and all the component fetching, which is the operation that actually takes time in the ECS. It's the component lookup. Yeah, we don't want to do that twice, and all the iteration we also don't want to do twice. Okay, so I mean this is pretty clear. So what we do is we just check if this path is path solid, which is actually isn't unlikely. I guess it is. Yeah, but I guess yeah, this is just something that can't be avoided really, right? DF check, but yeah, I mean it's fine. So and then the core operation is then this rasterize rect here, which yeah, as a function that's called a couple of times, no? Yeah, it's called twice, I guess. Yeah, but what this does, this is then the rasterization function. And it has some optimization at the top, right? So, I mean, I guess it's funny to think about. So if you have a square grid, right, and then trying to insert a rectangle, the first case is if the width is bigger than the cell size or the height of either one is bigger. So let's think about the negative case here. If both width and size of our inserted rectangle is smaller than a single cell here, yeah, it can only be in like 4 different cells, right? So worst case is if it's directly overlapping all 4, then it could be in all 4, or it's only in a single one, right? It's impossible if this statement like does not evaluate true that the rectangle is more than 4 4 grid cells, which is what we're doing here, right? We're doing in a basically it's inline, so all the checks. Yeah. So this just computes the coordinates here. So it computes the x and y coordinates of the top left corner and the bottom right corner of our rectangle. And for example, if both the top left coordinates, so this coordinates means grid cell positions, right? Because this is already divided by the cell size. So what you're getting is getting coordinates, so the values are directly like on the grid cells. So for example, if I'm at 0, 0, then 1, 1. If I get a rectangle that has top left corner of 1, 1 and bottom right corner of 1, 1, which in this case is integer. I mean, you might ask yourself why it's both 1, 1, right? But in this case, it's an integer truncation or like just flooring, right? If there's any number that's not, that's because this is float here, right? So first, I mean, yeah, you're already dividing 2 ends, right? But yeah, these are still 2 floats, which this might be like, you know, let's say 300. And then 300 divided by 500 is 0, right? Because it can either be 0 or 1, nothing in between, and then it's rounded down always with the integers. So in this case, then both would it be 1, 1, but corners, and then you know, so if they are not equal, not equal, not equal, wait. And then a half, why do they need a half? For something need a half as well. Oh, I guess the middle points. Why is it 9 potential cells? Am I missing something here? Oh. Okay, it's down here. It's even further down. Okay, so yeah, obviously this makes sense, right? So if unequal, yeah, so here I'm always calling the func for the x11, which in our case would be 1, 1, right? Then if they are both equal, all of these evaluate to false. And then I don't need the middle ones, that's true. So, but then I have the case, right, when it's bigger, either one is bigger, then yeah, then it can be 9, right? So if you think about it, for example, if you take a cell that's slightly larger than this one here, right? So the cell then overlaps all other ones because it's slightly bigger than the middle one. It's perfectly centered inside the 3 by 3 grid here. So So then it slightly touches all the other ones here, which is 9. The problem is then, which is something I missed when I first did this, by not calculating the middle ones, if it slightly touches all the other rounds, then the corner position will be at the top here, and the corner position would be in the bottom right corner would be like down here, right? No corner position would be inside the middle one, because it's completely contained, right? If you're specific about intersecting and contains, then contains is it's a shape is fully. I mean, this is not a formal definition, right? But I'm pretty sure this is something that's acceptable. Container means that it's fully inside another shape without even touching the shape, right? Yeah. And then none of these methods evaluates to true, right? Because you're only checking the corner positions. Yeah, and then so these two cases are inline because they're the most likely to happen. So yeah, these are both unlikely because I also in the config I want the user to configure the size of the grid so that like at least 90% of the entities fit within inside a grid. So for example, if like like your sprites are like kind of like 30 by 30, right? Then you should configure the grid cell, which is always a power of 2, by the way, to take advantage of the division here. The division here by a power of 2 is really fast. Then you want to have like a 64 by 64 cell size, right? So you always just nicely fit it inside. So the most likely case, or the only possible case then, the bottom one here. Yeah, but this case also inlined, and if nothing, if it's just too big, then we just use the for loops, right? Because then maybe if like a really big object like this here, you just iterate and you check. Yeah, but this is what happens on the hood. Yeah, and for this rasterize function is then I made it more abstract because I wanted to reuse it in both places, one inside of the hash grid. And yeah, the other, yeah, one inside the hash grid and one in the PathFinding grid. Guess I can do it like this. Whoops, yeah, the insert function I need to define here, which is just a lambda. A lambda. Which should be pretty fast, but yeah, though I don't want captures. So then it needs yeah, what does it need actually? Because I've kind of redone this. Right. Okay, is this actually a problem? Oh no. Because I've completely redone this. The problem is that this rasterization method takes a lambda, which is then called, as I showed earlier, with the ID of the cell it's in. But the problem is that for the pathfinding grid, I'm using a custom dense lookup grid, where computing the cell ID is kind of annoying. So I would like to keep the complexity in here, but I guess I can't. And it's actually also completely wrong, right? Because yeah, this works as kind of like a subgrid. You have like bigger grids and then subgrids. And this here then just yeah. Yeah, I mean it takes a cell size, right? And then it calls it, yeah, but it only calls it with the cell, with the ID. That's a problem, because I actually need the full coordinates, right? I don't want to explain all this now. I just did it yesterday and, you know, reviewed all this. But I mean, yeah, you just have a bigger grid, so you have the outer grid. So you get a value, like 350. You divide it by the main grid size, which is the power of 2, like 512. As we just said, 350 divided by 512. It being an integer division, I guess in here it's not, but it's being flawed. So it's like an integer division. So it's 0. Cast it to an int, it stays 0. So you have the outer cell, you're in the 0 outer cell. But then, yeah, it's the outer cell is divided in many bigger, so like smaller cells. Inside the smaller cell, first take the modulo of the original position. To get only the coordinate within the subgrid size. For example, if you have 512 as the outer grid size, so imagine you have one square, like a coordinate system, right? You have the two axes, only the top right quadrant we look at now. You have the y-axis going up, x-axis going to the right. You have 0, 0, then you think of a cube, right? It nicely fits in the origin. You have the 512 cube. Then you put a cube right next to it, so you have two cubes. So if you then take the middle point, you make a point in the middle of the first square, you make a point in the middle of the second square, and then the subgrid position of both of those middle points is the same inside the main cell, right? So the big squares on the out are like the main grids. So if you say the left one, we say 0, and then the right one we say is like main grid 1. But both the middle points of both those quadrants have the same subgrid position within those main grids, right? And so, but the second point, so we need the position relative to the main grid. So that's the middle point is in the middle of the first grid. And the middle point of the second one is in the middle of the second. But the absolute coordinate of the middle point of the second grid is, you know, the absolute coordinate is bigger like than the first, right? And then you modulate by taking the modulo. You only take what's left is, right? So you divide by the main grid size. And so you basically subtract it, you bring it to the same position as the first square, and then you see that the middle points are overlapping. I don't know, maybe it's this also too complicated, maybe this, we don't have to actually do it this way, but what this allows you to do is you only say, you basically just reduce the things you store in the hash map, right? So you only store each outer cell and all the subgrids. So each outer cell is then only one value in the hash map instead of each subgrid cell being stored in the hash map. So this just compacts it a lot. And I'm then also using a bit set, which then further compacts it. Right? So you can actually store, which is, and the default value is like 16 by 16, 256 divided by 8, because these are 256 bits. divided by 8, yeah, then, I mean, 60, 32. Oh yeah, 32. So 32 bytes for the bit set, but it needs to be a power of 2, this number here. If you use 32 squared is then like 1024, right? Divided by 8 would be too many, because I want to use at most 64 bits here, because I want to fit it in one cache line. So as we just said, this is then 32-bit with a bit 16 subgrid size, and then the visited cell is a BU32, so it's 4 bytes. It's combined like 36 bytes, so it fits one cache line. Both the key and the value fits in one cache line, and the hash map I'm using is a continuous one, so it stores all the values in a vector. So it being in one cache line should be good. Should be good for, I guess. I mean, we're not actually iterating the set, this map, but yeah. So the problem is, I guess I can't really reuse my rasterization method, because it would only iterate along the outer grid. I would at least need the coordinates to be passed as well, then it would work. Then it would work fine, actually. Yeah, that's the problem now. Yeah, the other thing is, in the static version, I just used this case, because as we already said, I don't really care how long it takes in the static version, because it doesn't happen often. But yeah, the problem is I also need to be able to handle entities of arbitrary size, right? So I can't just say I'm only using this case and the other case. Because then there might be an entity which is even bigger, and then I need this case. Yeah. But I also don't want to de-optimize this method. I guess duplication it is. But I'm using it here as well. Like insert, I'm just doing the rasterization. I can actually be reused for both the query and the insert function. You just pass it a different lambda. Which I don't like it fully, right? It's always with the lambdas and then it captures. You don't really know if it's being optimized, but yeah. It should be. Could also be good to like remove maybe this case and just make it a method. So like the inline is not as big. Okay. It actually has been like an hour for me. I can pause the video whenever I like. Yeah, but I guess the solution is just to make a separate rasterize function for the subgrid, which I was actually thinking might be a bit weird to do. And then I can also do this one without without any templates, and this one as well. So it's just easier to understand and compile. I guess I want to make it outside. How do I? I guess I do. Yeah, I'm just thinking, because I said earlier that for the hash grid, both insert and query use the rasterized function. And here for the querying, I don't actually need it. Right, yeah. Okay, because here, I'm not searching with a rectangle, I'm rather searching with the position. But do I? Because what's also still open to implement is pathfinding, but given dimensions. So I could already solve this. Okay. We'll see. So I guess I'll just leave this for now as it is. So the problem when rasterizing for the subgrid is that I guess the cell size. Yeah, because the problem is the actual cell size is still the same. Right? I'm still having this main grid base size as this cell, the actual grid size I want, right? And everything under the hood just happens kind of just to optimize the access speed and memory consumption. So in reality, the cell size is still can be still the main grid size of like 32, just say that an example. But I need the main grid ID as well, right? So I guess I can just do this. And then I already have the cell. And then I can, I guess, directly iterate. But that's weird, right? Because what I'm getting back here, I'm then getting back the x of like, so I have like a big cell here, right? This is not gonna look pretty, I guess. I mean, right, but I mean, I just have two like big main cells and then like two subgrids within, right? And in here, I'm basically getting the subgrid x, but not relative to the main grid, but just at the absolute position. So for example, if this main grid here consists of two subgrids, like this, then for this position I would get like the x is equals 4, right? But what I actually want is x equal like 1, or like 2 if this is 1, right? Because it's the second one in the subgrid and the main grid cell. Yeah, so what I could just do is subtract the main grid. So just start x minus cell x. I could do that. Yeah. And then again for the querying, I could, I know that I'm just yeah, I kind of know that it's just gonna be rectangles, right? So I don't necessarily need the restaurants, right? Just make a lookup function, get this marked on the rectangle. Well, okay, I guess I do, because rectangle could be of arbitrary size, right? Damn. Yeah, well, how am I gonna do this? Yeah, also the problem here is that this it can go across main grid cells, right? So I can't just compute this once, but I would have to compute it multiple times. It's really annoying. That's also the reason why I'm just taking an x and y here, and not a cell ID or something. Hmm. Question is, do I actually have to care about anything, right? I can't just throw some instructions at it. So I just thought about what I could do is just keep the cells as it is, because I'm iterating them with the base cell size. So in this case, what is the subgrid size? Then I'm just calling it with the subcell, right? But then what I can just do is multiply it back with the grid size, and then just call this function again with the call. Yeah, that sounds pretty straightforward to me. Then I also don't have to duplicate the method. So just have to make the insertion method here. I guess it actually takes any lambda. Doesn't care. Refuses to elaborate further. So I just get an ID func. Yeah. But it takes two variables. What type are they actually? Y, I mean, it's just int. takes int x and y. So it's boy takes int cell x and cell y. Static insert dynamic grade. And it should take a grid. And the grid gets from here. From the iterate. So here I get the hash grid. Then I should get the PathFinding grid as well. But I do have to pass it. Oh no. Guess it's a new line then. This is actually entity hash grid. This is just a vector entity. And then I'm getting a do I have type def for that? Yes, I do. Getting a dense lookup grid with a template parameter. Oh no. Well, I guess I can make it all. Okay, my insert func I'm getting. Well, can I make this template? Well, I mean, in the end, it still says just this, right? So I actually know it all the time. Lookup. Is the type even visible here? The dense lookup grid. Cell size. Subgrid size. Well, I can actually. I mean, yeah, I can leave it like this. Well, actually, let's just hard code it maybe. Well, actually, let's just not hard code it actually, because it's not used anyway, right? Yeah. So it's a dense lookup grid. Damn, I need to type that. And I'm going to grid here as well. So then I can just make it a float here. Just call grid dot set marked. And just say cell times. Well, actually, let's make it a integer multiplication. Don't need to make it templated. This whole method can then be deleted shortly. Right, so now I just being called the cell, I just multiply it back, then it's fine. Then I can just recall the logic here, and then everything is just confined, right? If I have to worry about this, I just look at this and I fix it here, and then it just works, right? I don't want to like what's the word for it? Streuen. I mean, litter. It's not really litter. Like scatter. I don't want to scatter the complexity across like a code base or something, right? You want to try to confine it. To strew, to dust, disperse, distribute. To beds down. Okay, now. Okay, that's. Okay, and this function I can now call here. Yeah. So now I can call do I actually need this parameter though? Because technically it doesn't make a difference if I'm fetching it up here or down here, right? Because both things only happen once, so it doesn't matter. In fact, actually, it's kind of lost because I have to fetch it, but it's just a direct lookup anyway, right? It's just a subscript direct array lookup, but I guess I can actually avoid it. Yeah, which means I can fetch it here. Yeah, I can put it here. Just say like auto global. That's data. The map. I can just say post map, honestly, it doesn't matter. Must exist, that is correct. I guess it's also more idiomatic to break here, I guess, instead of return. Just to be safe. And then this is just path data to get a solid. I don't like this layout specifically of this class. Or of this header. Okay. So this cache could probably further down. Can I not just like inline this? Like, is this too much? Spoiler, it was not too much. It fits in one line, let's go. Am I too loud? Am I too loud? Maybe a bit, actually. I'm having a really professional setup now. Not professional user, at least not yet. Okay. And so I can reduce the methods. It's nice, it's just a class. Okay, then I can just call so I just have to call this. It would be nice if I could just like call it outright, like below here, right? Just gotta watch out and not make it fall through here by accident. Yeah, so I could just call the grid.insert. Wouldn't actually take too much, right? Insert, then I take const float x, const float y, const float w, const float height. Then I here call rasterize rect with, guess this is a lambda. Too early. Guess passing this. What's the ID func? Oh, that's the ID. Fuck. I kinda. Let's see that. Man, this is too convoluted here. This is too clear. It's only being called 2 times. Because I don't have a grid ID here. Well, actually I do. That's fine. It's a different one. It's the main grid ID. That is annoying. Because I could just do the same thing here. This is annoying. I could just remove the ID func though, honestly. Like this. Just like this. Why is it gone? Hello? Oh, I didn't. Well, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I just make the... So I just keep this function a bit more generic. So in this case, yeah, this is not passed anymore. But the query function then just cell ID, cell ID. This just takes and select. Right, so just making the general case here and then I specialize in here, which is how it should be. Do I actually need those captures then? I don't like those. Right. I need this. Should be reference per default, right? This. Man, lambda captures is science for itself, really. I don't know. But I guess it's implicitly a reference. Unless you make it. This also doesn't work. Okay, like this maybe, so I can by default make the reference. I don't know that. This I think is the same as this. Does this work? Okay, I don't know anymore. Just keep it like this. Well, I guess I can ask. I can ask ChatGPT. Well, I guess I can't because I'm not logged in. Okay, so I guess I do need the thing, the captures. Okay, yeah, so this v value is like the entity ID, what's being inserted into the grid. Right. Okay. Okay, so now my function is called with 2 again, so now I can work with it. Set func, short func, like this, this, then calling it with the main grid base size, and then yeah, multiplying it back up, and then just calling the methods, which break it down again. There's some redundancy, it's not big, it's acceptable. Also, these operations, they look very slow, but they're very fast. All right. This is just number, what's it called? Ampersand, like the Boolean and, bitwise and -1. And this division is just a bit shift. Right. By 1. Yeah. I mean, this is the only division that's, well, it's actually division by, but it's float numbers. Does it actually have to be a float division, or am I missing something? Actually, it doesn't, right? I don't know if the behavior is the same. Because the floor behavior is that if you floor minus 0.5, it floors to -1, right? So I want strengthened. So maybe this is actually what's meant by this. And maybe if I cast a minus 0.5 to an int, it's maybe 0 then, you know? So it's like rounded up. Might actually just try it in here. Now I'm having a bunch of compiler errors. What project am I running here? PathFinding example. Okay, so man, I was recently implementing printf. Yeah, so I'm now a bit of a printf specialist. So I can do funny things now. So I can specify a minimal width of 5, a precision of at least 4. Then I want 0 padding instead of space padding, and then I actually want a special size parameter, and I want the alternate implementation. Damn, man, did they actually build a printf format analyzer into the IDE? That's crazy. But this should be a valid format. No? This is for sure a valid format. Oh, it's not enough arguments. Right, but the LLD is obviously just for the funsies. Does it actually stop with the U? Oh, the U is unsigned, right? So early. But there's H, you can have Z, you can have T. What else? We can have LL. They all mean different things, and then you still have the hashtag. The hashtag then it's completely alternate implementation for every format specifier again, and then you have certain flags, but then certain flags don't work on. They only work on some specifiers and not on others, and it's actually insane. It's actually insane. But I guess, you know, you want to have to do something when you're like implementing the compiler standard library. Would be boring. So I actually want to do something. I want to cast minus 0. Wait, like just delete this for a second. Because I don't need this. Why is this delay here? I already deleted it years ago. Okay, I guess there's some template issues here. Right. Just calling the wrong function because I copied it. Function. We get how long awaited? Yeah, it's 0. It is 0. That's a problem. I actually want to make an integer division because it's a little faster than I guess. So yeah, what am I doing here? Just casting it float. Well, I guess there's something similar like integers. Right, I guess I just make the custom floor. It's just so x like this. Damn. It's like you have the method and then 10 more keywords. But I like it. Explicit. So this should behave the same, right? So yeah, I don't want to explain the whole thing again, but so if something is above 0 but below 1, it's being cast to 1. But as soon as it's below 1, it's like minus 0.1. It's being casted to -1, and then if it's minus 1.1, it's being casted first to -1, and then yeah. I can avoid this and get should be an integer arithmetic here. Maybe give this an explicit name to avoid any floor I. Strengthened. I don't know what it means. I'll just yeah, and then do the same here. This is just a copy. Okay. Now I deleted this. I want it back. Okay, so here I only... Dang it, Jesus, what did I do here? To cell Y. Then I get... Just call the step mark like this. Can I even... This maybe? Just have it auto-casted. Should also be fine, right? I don't know what happens then. Maybe I leave it like this. Shouldn't be promoted to a float then. Okay, I mean this should work. Okay, and then I can just call set with the same parameters. Right, and do it everywhere. Maybe I can write a macro for that. Yeah. Oi. Stop. Man, I'm just, I can't copy this, especially this kind of sensitive code. Okay. This is what I need to do. So I just duplicate this, copy this, insert this, dynamic this, remove comment. Nice. Yes. Can I fit this on one line? I guess I can't. Only if I make it non-const. Okay. So that should work. Let's run. It's coming. Getting any errors here. This is what I was fixing yesterday. As soon as you go into the negative, the subgrid thing stopped working because of like sign errors and stuff. Access problems. Yeah, but this works fine. Still a bit janky. But that's up to the user, right? Like this is just a very simple implementation. Basically, the algorithm gives you back the next tile and then you decide how to act on that information. For example, you can say if the entity is already intersects the tile, it should go slower or like avoid the jitter, right? It can kind of get complicated. I had it, did in my previous game. Also with the lines, so you only get back the next tile, but you can decide, do I move diagonally, do I move up? Okay, but now I actually want to see. Man, this was long and hard. But I like it how it turned out. I do like it. Because it's really fast, it's integrated into the logic system. It's all kind of neatly tied up here. The functions, we reuse the other method. It kind of takes a while to arrive at this solution, I guess. And we don't even know if it's working correctly yet. Just thinking, but it does need an end line because it's a template function. Okay. Yeah, so what I do want now is I can go into the PathFinding example, like so. Can go to draw game and it already draws this PathFinding grid. I don't necessarily like it. Well, what I can do is I can now test these methods because they should already work, right? So PathFinding example. Then go set type as solid hunter true. Then we should see it be illuminated, but it's not. Let's check with the debugger. Alright, it doesn't cover dynamic cells. Forgot. Still no? Okay, check this method. Get this path solid. Okay, it's called the hunter now. Let's check solid types. 0. Did I not implement this? Or maybe. No. Where am I even calling this? Saying that draw game should be called in startup. Types, insert type. Looks fine to me. So it's not even in there for some reason. Why? Let's check. Let's check this method. True. Okay. Can I look at this? through, insert, go to next. Ah, it's empty. That's crazy. Am I doing anything to this? No? It's also never called again. That is most curious. But what am I missing here? Let's see this. Okay, this is true. What about here? It's also true. It's not in yet. That compiled. It's also true. Okay, okay. We're still not seeing it. Wait, but it's still not contained. This was the problem, not this setup. Okay. Maybe it's just not parsed correctly. Okay, solid types. There it is. Did I just miss it earlier? Because I looked at the solid entities. Okay, so as path solid is false. Ding ding ding. That's false. Because enable dynamic is false. Not giving an option currently, right? No. Where do I do this? PathFinding? I guess I do T. Honestly though, guess I don't actually need it. Doesn't really make a big difference anyway. Okay. Now we're seeing something. I'm not seeing its correct position. It's not in the camera. Oh, what's going on here, mister? Damn, looks cool. That's not what we want though. Why? Guess I can eliminate this check here as well then actually. Because I'm just not. Because you can control this very precisely anyway now. It just adds a lot of complexity. And they fit in one line. I like that. It's always an added benefit. Can you get rid of the warnings? Still having those. So I'm from 0. Right, I guess that's the problem. I've already implemented this. But why is this actually so old still? I guess I have to go into debug here. Draw the hash grid. I still have to do the compass. I have to do that. That's still a lot of little ones. Okay. Technically this can be like moved out, right? Micro optimization. This like whoever declared int const, yeah, I've never seen this before, but ClankTidy is giving me this interesting piece of code. So why is this a 50 here, you know? Speaking of magic numbers. So I'm getting a grid here, contains, actually returning, so I guess sure as can be. Getting a grid. I'm getting the half cell size. Great. But this is also not, this is also old. Hello? This also doesn't respect the camera. Wait, this respects camera. Oh, it does. Oh yeah, it does. Okay, so this was the new one. Slowly, I guess, like this. So I get the camera bounce. Yes. Okay. Why does it start from 0? Because it just starts, okay. The top left always. Right, okay, now makes sense. For width, and then, but here I'm starting with start x plus. Okay, that's fine. Then I'm going for the rect. Cell size. So am I getting the okay, PathFinding cell size? That's fine. Getting if it's solid. That's fine. Then I'm drawing the rectangle. That's also fine. Why am I getting it 4 times? It's very weird. What's the... Yeah, I'm not getting the errors. Because it's... Okay, I guess the rasterization also not really correct. It's blocking itself. But I mean, it works then, right? Why am I like seeing these 4 things? Hmm. Because I'm just iterating from a 0 to 9. So somehow like it's always like it doesn't matter if like these values are kind of interchanged, right? But it should. Why is this unlikely? Why is this actually different? Why is this taking a float actually? That is the problem actually. Because it's not being... So I have to do Whoa, what am I thinking here? So I get a float X, right? They can actually just be instantly cast to an int. Because these are just ints anyway, pretty much. Well, I guess they don't have to be, but then if I divide them, right. Okay, the problem is if I get 0, right? So if I know the case, yeah, that's a problem. But I don't want to make it a floating point. Because if it's 0, I don't know. So the problem is that int from anywhere from less than -1 up to less than 1. Everything casts to an actual 0, right? And then I don't know where it came from. Just take a plus and say but it can only be negative if either one is negative, right? Yeah, so I have like floor and then floor div. So and res equals div, so I can do an integer division. Oh, but then I don't know at compile time that it's a power of 2. I mean, I can template it, I guess. Just inline it. Template div x divided by div fx less than 0. Guess like this. Because then no, because it can only be 0 if x is 0 up front, right? So if minus, so if so is so if it is minus, I know it's the left side of this statement. Otherwise, it has to be on the right side. And the template, the compiler knows at compile time that it's a power of 2, can optimize it. Well, let's see if it works. Because then, yeah, it's just as I said. Okay, yeah, this looks much better. It does not look much better. What is this? Possible loss of data. Calling this. Why am I making this float actually? Only because of this, I guess. Yeah, I can just make it an int, I guess. Eliminate a lot of the casting here. Still. I mean, this should work now. Man, this is annoying me. Am I using float science now? Usually I just have to stick to float. I said I'm using float at the beginning, so I'm using float. That's just how it is. I am doing a lot of conversions still. Yeah, but that's I can do that later. So if I'm casting sound, but this doesn't change anything. Otherwise, it's still not working. I mean, the shift here should be correct. Maybe if I just use this from earlier. I mean, this has to be an issue with the grid, right? Because the drawing is correct. It has to be. I'm not seeing any green here though. Hello? Any greeners? Yes. What? Hey, what's going on here? Okay, now I'm curious. Isn't it literally impossible? Why can I not debug this? What's going on? Hello? How am I seeing the printouts? Am I trimming something up? Says everything okay? Hello? We good? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. It's just what's going on? It's just not recompiling or what? Okay. Oh, it's green. Is it just like optimized away or something? Oh, Jesus. And now it's gone. It's just pranking me the whole time. It's insane. Yeah, but I need to make this line, sadly. I guess just them black. I always draw them regardless. This was very strange. But yeah, as we can see, is the rasterization. I mean, actually, this. No, it's not correct. But is it drawn incorrectly? No, it's not drawn correctly. Because it seems like it's just an offset, right? Could be just this being wrong. I mean, maybe let's make the. Can also just make the player solid. Then just stop this guy from following us. Creepy guy. Okay, so this is correct actually. It's correct. Just everything is correct. Oh, okay, so I got interrupted sadly and ended up kind of finishing and fixing it all in the end, which was the interesting part, right? But I guess I can go through the commit again. So in here, pathfinding in the example, nothing much happened. I added the enabling collision handling, but that's just a simple flag. And then the 2D compass I also just implemented now. So yeah, we changed the interface, so has a solid naming, the path solid, and then you can get then set as documented here the type, the express precedence, or you can never specify that something is not solid, only that it's not solid. Right? You cannot specify that something is not solid. You can only specify that something is non-solid. Yeah. Okay, and then in the config, yeah, just lowered the value a bit. Okay, so now we are in source. In source, which the actual magic happens. So the main here is just I included the flag with the collision handle, so both systems are not called. Yeah, here just implemented for the draw hash grid debug. Just included the camera, so you only draw what's visible, and yeah, it just works continuously wherever you are. You just draw the hash debug at this location. And the same for the compass. I just draw like a Cartesian coordinate system, right? Like the 4-axis and then the markers and the definable gap. Here in the engine config, oh, that's in the ECS. I just changed a bunch of variables to be clearer. Okay, so it gets interesting. Well, it all started out with me wanting to implement the raycast, which actually I still didn't test. But yeah, this is just implementation, draw pathfinding grid. Also now use the camera to be sure that this has been made static. Okay, so here comes the big change, the solution to the most problems in the end. I couldn't show anymore just the rasterization itself, which is pretty old algorithm, or like was pretty long in the project already. Was still not using the floor depth, right? Those had still issues when with negative numbers, which I was aware of, right? I just kind of ignored it for some reason. I knew that the behavior was what I liked, but I guess I just had other things in mind I had to do and didn't think about the solution here. But yeah, this floor depth I think is the best solution. First of all, it does what it should do, but it's also templated, so it's still compile time, which is important. Because I am explicitly using power of 2, which I'm actually regulating with macros. The user said something else than a power of 2. Gotta get a compiler error. Yeah, so I would just implement and I deduplicated this set of local variables, which was I had 3 times for some reason. This was really weird. I don't know what was going on there. So yeah, you only need it once, obviously, and then we also despecialized this version without the ID func. Yeah. And this was so, yeah, just did the ID func change, right? Damn. And yeah, and here just formatting changed. Just a new variables, data just remove the variable. Okay, and pathfinding data, just a bit more documentation than using the floor depth. Then I experimented around with changing this to an int in the end finally, but I guess it's just better to leave it at a float. Then yeah, introduced the type depths here. And then we just, yeah. Then another really big thing is here in the logic system where all the updates for the dynamic pathfinding grids happen, right? First of all, it's kind of cleaned up. I refactored this big method into its own method. But yeah, and here we reuse all the data we already fetching because of the logic we have to do anyway during the tick at least once. And then we just check if the entity is marked as path solid either by its type being set or by the entity ID itself being explicitly set. Then if it's the case, we just insert it into the dynamic grid with the same rasterization and the same values as into the hash grid for the collision. Right, and I really like this, how it turned out. It was very complicated. That kind of took me yesterday and today of just kind of brooding over this until I find a good solution, but I really like how it turned out. It fits really nicely, and yeah, and then I just removed some. He just changed the thing. Then in the client format, yeah, with the includes, I figured out a new way to sort the includes, but that's for the next project, I guess. Because I already had kind of hand formatted all the include groups. But normally when I use the include blocks and regroup and then the correct regex. Yeah, so this is just the update how I fixed it in the end now. So the actual leaking my email address. So the actual commit message then was that yeah, you have a major review of the pathfinding, yeah, that's it. Just as an update what happened. Thanks for watching the video, and sadly I couldn't capture the actual fun stuff, fixing all the things in the end when you figure it out. Until next time.